was an impromptu interview with Fox News and Donald Trump this morning, and the interview was lengthy and also a bit rambly, but there was one portion of it that really stood out to critics of Trump, but also to conservatives as well, because he has been going around town saying very complimentary things about Kim Jong-Un. He said other complimentary things about other authoritarian leaders around the world. And so in the middle of this interview, he says this.
Seen Mr. Kim here at the White House?
Could happen. I mean,
they talked about that yesterday.
I would have him. Yeah, I think it's something that could happen. Yeah. Hey, he's the head of a country, and I mean, he's the strong head. Don't let anyone think anything different.
Right.
He speaks and his people sit up at attention. I want my people to do the same.
So he points to the White House and says, I want my people to do the same. So of course that alarms people because he seems to have an affinity for authoritarianism, and he said all these incredible compliments about Kim Jong-Un. And then again, the context of that statement was he's the head of the country, and I mean he is a strong head. Don't let anyone tell you anything different. He speaks and his people sit up at attention. I want my people to do the same. It's crazy.
It's shocking.
Yeah.
It's absolutely shocking. And even the fact that he was like, it was like halfway to just go there. Just go all the way there.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's what you're looking for.
There's no
clearly.
acknowledgement that the people sit up at attention because they're under threat of imprisonment and torture. It's the malignant narcissistic personality disorder where you don't care how you get adulation, you just want that adulation.
Yeah, and he sees it, the fact that he looks at Kim Jong-Un and is like, that's the guy that I want. It's so chilling. And this whole summit, being of South Korean descent and just seeing this whole summit play out has just been so chilling. Seeing the flags, our flag next to the North Korean flag. I mean, this is a guy that has executed multiple family members. This is a guy that in his country, every household has a photo of him, and if you don't bow down to the photo of him, you will get hauled off and murdered. I mean, it's just bonkers, and for Trump to be like, yeah, this is my guy, this is the buddy that I want to emulate, is just insane.
Helen, I mean, you say dragged off and murdered. He says strong head. He's a strong head. I wonder what he would have called Stalin. He was also a strong head, right? And by the way, Stalin was one of the biggest murderers in human history. But Kim Jong-Un might be on a smaller scale because he just commands over less people. But it's not that far apart. He has concentration camps. The North Korean regime is absolutely brutal and has killed countless people and treats its citizens worse than any country on earth right now, and is a dictator that pretends to be a communist, much like Stalin. And so, but for Trump, even if you were to give him the enormous benefit of the doubt, which he does not deserve in any way, shape, or form, and say that he was joking when he said he wants his people to sit up at attention and I want my people to do the same. Imagine if Obama had said that, joking or otherwise.
Well, Obama caught a lot of heat for signing executive orders. He caught a lot of heat for doing things unilaterally without Congress's involvement. And so I just find it so fascinating that the very people who criticized Obama for being too authoritarian in their eyes are now supporting Trump and supporting all the different things that he's done unilaterally, right? He's alienated himself from his own aides. He doesn't want their advice. He refuses to, or says he's going to refuse to sign any type of bipartisan legislation pertaining to immigration reform. He does things on his own, and he's signed countless executive orders early on in his first term, hopefully his only term. By the way, what was his excuse for that statement that he made? Because reporters wanted to know, like, are you serious? What's going on? So following that interview with Fox and Friends, a reporter asked him, what did you mean just now when you said you wished Americans would sit up at attention? And here's what he said. I'm kidding. You don't understand sarcasm? Hey, who are you with? You're with CNN? Hey, you're the worst.
Could you imagine if Obama had said that? I mean, once Obama tweaked Fox News and wondered if they were really fair and balanced. And everybody flipped out. They're like, how could the president try to intimidate the press that way by attacking Fox News?
Yeah.
I mean, look at what Trump has done. If Obama was going around going, I mean, And within the context that Trump has, if Obama, we know he normalized relationships with Cuba, the same guys, Sean Hannity, et cetera, were like, how dare you, they're brutal communist dictators, and we can't meet with them. And if Obama joked around like, hey, Fidel Castro's a strong head, okay? And he gets his people to pay attention, just like I want, right? You think that Sean Hannity would have been like, oh, no, it's okay, he's just kidding.
Well, one of the things that I think Plato said preceded the fall of any great society was, among other things, rank partisanship as just a matter of course. And I feel like that's not, it's just expected now that you cheer for your team regardless of objective reality.
Yeah, just to comment on that quickly, I was on a show called Left, Right, and Center. It's NPR usually carries it, but it's a local show here, a radio show. And Rich Lowry, who writes for the National Review, edits the National Review, he was the person representing the right. And I was kind of shocked at how reasonable he is, because it's a rarity these days. People are unwilling to bend when it comes to understanding other perspectives and at least acknowledging when the other side is right. And so it's a really scary world we're living in when the partisanship is that divisive.
Because we're moving further away from objective reality.
Yeah.
Right.
But also because the Republican Party is now the Trump Party. It's no longer like traditional Republicanism. And we just had these primary elections where if you're a Republican, you say something against Trump, off with your head, you're gone. And so I think if you're a Republican in power, right, like in a seat right now, you're like, ooh, I can't. I could say something against Trump. I definitely don't agree with him, but if I do, my seat is gone.
Right.
And it's crazy. It's bonkers how much, the Republicans have just dug in like, Trump's our guy, and we support everything he does, and if you don't support him, then you're gone. Like, it's nuts.
Yeah, that's creeping authoritarianism.
And so I also wanted to show you a quick clip of Trump earlier this week talking about the president of China. Just a little context for you. The president of China did away with term limits, which would allow him to serve as president indefinitely. So that's pretty undemocratic. And Trump was asked what he thought about that. Here's what he had to say.
I have a very good relationship with President Xi of China. He's an incredible guy. They just, essentially president for life. It's pretty good.
He says
wistfully, he's like, he's just president for life. Wouldn't that be amazing?
No, guys, he's not joking. He says it over and over and over again. And he acts it out too. He keeps saying in public, I wouldn't have hired Jeff Sessions if I knew that he was going to enforce the law, if I knew that he wasn't going to recuse himself because of a conflict of interest. That's what Sessions is supposed to do as the Attorney General of us, the United States of America and its citizens, not the president's lawyer. He just doesn't understand that concept and doesn't believe in that concept. He's like, I don't get it. Why doesn't everybody sit up at attention? I'm the leader of the country. Why can't I be president for life? Because you're not a dictator. We didn't elect you to be a dictator. We elected you to represent us.
Yeah.
And he's just not doing it.
I think he thinks he's king. Like I legitimately think he thinks I was elected to king. Here I am, and king me. Like, why are all you subjects not bowing down? And the fact that he's saying great things about Kim Jong-Un and the president of China, while apparently there's a special place in hell for Canada? Like, what?
Right.
Are we living in the upside down right now? Like, what is happening?
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below. Then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.